When most teenagers have a Friday off from school, they sleep in, maybe get together with friends, or bum around the house in pajamas all day. When 15-year-old Alyssa Bustamante of Missouri had a Friday off from school, she spent the day digging 2 holes in the ground to be used as graves. Then, she waited. Alyssa went on with life as usual, going to school, and hanging out with friends, awaiting the opportunity to murder. That opportunity came just 4 days later. On the evening of October 21, 2009, when her neighbor, 9-year-old Elizabeth Olton, was walking home from her friend's house. Elizabeth was last seen at 6:15 p.m. when she left her friend's house to go home. Her house was only a few doors down, but Elizabeth was never seen alive again. When she didn't return home, her family frantically looked for her and soon called police to report her missing. Knowing Elizabeth was afraid of the dark and would not have wandered off alone, her family grew increasingly worried. They knew that Elizabeth would not willingly stay out after dark. They knew they needed to find her. What they didn't know was that it was already too late. When Alyssa saw the much younger Elizabeth walking home, she seized the opportunity to kill. She grabbed the girl, beat her, strangled her, and finally stabbed her and slit her throat. She then dumped her body into one of the graves she had dug the week before in a nearby wooded area. Police searched vigilantly for the little girl, including the area where her body would eventually be found. But they found no trace of her. They pinged Elizabeth's cell phone, and though it showed the location as being the woods where her body lay, they weren't able to find her or the phone. Ultimately, a letter led the police to Alyssa and she confessed. And Alyssa herself led police to her victim's grave. The why in this case is simple, yet murky. The readily available explanation, given by Alyssa herself, was that she wanted to know what it felt like to kill someone. But the psychological implications of that statement are pathological. Normal, mentally stable people, even ones who may momentarily think about murder, do not go and kill someone to find out what it feels like. What made Alyssa decide to satisfy her curiosity? That answer is a little more complicated. There were clues and warning signs that something was not right with Alyssa. She had shown signs of psychological problems in the past, attempting suicide numerous times and taking medication for depression. She had been given both inpatient and outpatient psychiatric care after her last suicide attempt. She was a cutter, someone who deals with emotional pain by cutting and inflicting physical pain on themselves. However, a study from 2012 suggested that between 12% and 23% of adolescents self-injure, with the vast majority of them having no desire to inflict pain on others, much less commit a brutal murder. So what made Alyssa different? Her best friend claimed Alyssa had once told her that she wondered what it would be like to kill someone. But digging even deeper into her digital footprint, investigators found that Alyssa had many online accounts. On her YouTube account, she listed killing people and cutting as her hobbies. But there was more. Perhaps the most disturbing clues investigators found in Alyssa's YouTube account were what police described as disturbing home movies, including one in which she touched an electrified cattle fence and then urged her brothers to do the same. Before the clip involving her brothers, Alyssa wrote, "This is where it gets good. This is where my brothers get hurt." In addition, neither of Alyssa's parents were around, and Alyssa was in the care of her grandparents. Alyssa was born to a teenage mother with a criminal record for petty crimes, drug possession, and a DUI. Alyssa's father was in prison serving a 10-year sentence for assault. Alyssa was described as violent, depressed, and angry. None of these traits are an excuse for murder. But one has to wonder, if she had experienced a healthier family life and received psychiatric treatment, could this tragedy have been prevented? Police have speculated that the reason Alyssa dug not one, but 2 graves, was because she had originally planned to murder her 2 younger brothers before impulsively targeting Elizabeth instead. They felt the YouTube video backed up this theory, as she took delight in inflicting pain on her brothers. Alyssa has not corroborated this allegation, and we might never know the answer. Did Alyssa have different targets in mind for her crimes? Would she have killed again if she had not been caught the first time? Alyssa was arrested and charged with first-degree murder in the death of Elizabeth Olton. She appeared in court on November 17, 2009, where the judge ruled that she should be tried as an adult. Despite her confession to the crime, as well as having led the police to Elizabeth's body, she entered a plea of not guilty. After several delays in the trial, she was finally set to face the murder charges, with proceedings due to start on January 30, 2012. Instead, Alyssa pleaded guilty to the charge of second-degree murder and armed criminal action. There was an audible gasp heard in the courtroom when the now 18-year-old Alyssa admitted to taking a knife to the throat of Elizabeth Olton and slitting it, then strangling her with her bare hands afterward. Her defense team tried to offer some excuses for what caused Alyssa to perform this horrid act, including the antidepressant Prozac, which she had begun taking in 2007 after a suicide attempt. She had started an increased dosage just 2 weeks before Elizabeth's murder. However, many psychologists and mental health experts have said the connection between SSRI meds like Prozac and violent crime is dubious and not causally related. Alyssa's defense team recounted a family history of drug abuse, suicide attempts, and mental disorders in depicting the defendant's mental state before the crime. Her lawyers also told the jury that her mother had abandoned her and her father was in prison. Psychologists for the defense described Alyssa as psychologically damaged and severely emotionally disturbed. They testified that she suffers from major depression and also displays symptoms of borderline personality disorder, BPD, which is characterized by feelings of emptiness, instability of moods, inappropriate displays of anger, and poor impulse control. Though the details of Alyssa's mental stability were quite disturbing. She had previous suicide attempts, a history of self-harm including over 300 cuts on her body, as well as self-inflicted cigarette burn marks. The most disturbing and damning evidence presented was a journal entry that Alyssa made in her diary after the murder. She wrote, "I strangled them and slit their throat and stabbed them, now they're dead. I don't know how to feel ATM, it was amazing. As soon as you get over the, oh my god I can't do this feeling, it's pretty enjoyable. I'm kinda nervous and shaky though right now. I gotta go to church now, LOL." Missouri State Highway Patrol SGT, David Rice, who interviewed Alyssa in the days after the murder, testified in court that the motive was chillingly simple. Ultimately, she stated she wanted to know what it felt like. After days of emotional testimony in the court, the prosecution made an impassioned plea for the judge to give her a life sentence. Alyssa, who had been staring at the floor impassively while the prosecution recounted her crime, finally broke down and cried for the first time in over 2 years of court proceedings, when her grandparents got upset and stormed out of the courtroom. Alyssa's grandparents were not the only ones to have an emotional breakdown. After the judge's announcement that he would hand down a sentence the next day, the grandmother of victim Elizabeth Olton yelled out, "I think Alyssa should get out of jail the same day Elizabeth gets out of the grave." On February 8, 2012, Alyssa Bustamante gave a final statement before the judge handed down her sentence, telling the court while Elizabeth Olton's family members wept, "If I could give my life to bring her back, I would. I just want to say I'm sorry for what happened. I'm so sorry." She was then sentenced to life imprisonment, with the possibility of parole. Alyssa Bustamante got a new attorney in 2014, and attempted to argue that pending U.S. Supreme Court cases would have precluded her 2012 guilty plea deal. She asked for a new sentencing, but the judge dismissed the case. In 2015, Patricia Price, mother of victim Elizabeth Olton, sued Alyssa Bustamante, along with a mental health facility and 2 of its employees, for the wrongful death of her daughter. The lawsuit against the facility and its employees was dismissed, but Alyssa was held responsible and will owe Price $5 million plus yearly interest until the debt has been paid. The controversial Senate Bill 26, passed by the Missouri legislature, allows for a convicted murderer, who was under the age of 18 at the time of the crime, to be paroled after only 15 years of incarceration. As a result, Bustamante has been granted a parole hearing. Some Missouri lawmakers, as well as the National Organization of Juvenile Murderers, are attempting to repeal or rewrite the bill,